Reports have emerged last night and this morning about Paul Pogba being offered a £500,000 a week contract with Manchester United to stay after his contract expires in this summer. In this video, I'm going to explain why Paul Pogba needs to go. If Manchester United want to have a better future, want to have a cultural reset, Paul Pogba needs to go. Ten Hag cannot have him here next season. Okay, then, so the reports which sort of emerged last night, this morning, mainly coming from Disco Mirror, were that dressing room disharmony could erupt at Manchester United if Paul Pogba signs the £500,000 per week contract that he's been offered. Now, this is one of the aspects that I really dislike about Manchester United's board and the way it's run. And this is definitely a John Murtough, Matt Judge, and potentially even Darren Fletcher thing, although I'm not even sure what Darren Fletcher's role within the club is. Because of the value of Paul Pogba and because of the way Manchester United account for our contracts when we're talking to banks and things like that, if they can have a player on £500,000 a week over X number of years, they get to put that £80 million of contract into our accounting and show it as an asset, which is a mad way to think of the liability that this is rather than the asset that this is. But because there's a value attached to it, they get to include this on a balance sheet somewhere. That's the problem with the financial side running the football side. And that's the reason why Juan Mata has had his contract extended. Previously, the likes of Ashley Young had their contract extended. Manchester United are about to lose a player who on his day is very, very good. But far too infrequently that day comes. Now, the rest of the report was that a high-end source at United claims there's going to be a mutiny in the dressing room if Pogba ends up accepting the offer and remaining at Old Trafford, with other players demanding parity in wages. And we saw that already. We saw Alexis Sanchez come in, was on reportedly somewhere in the region of £400,000-500,000 per week. And the chain reaction that starts, you only have to look at Barcelona and you see some of the astronomical wages. Like Griezmann was on £800,000 per week because Messi was on like 2.6 million. Now, no one's ever going to walk in and go, I'm as good as Messi, give me the same money. But you can't walk in and get paid a 10th of what Messi gets paid, or a 20th of what Messi gets paid, which would still be 125 grand a week. You walk in and you go, well, I'm worth at least a third, give me 800 grand a week. And that's what happened at Manchester United. Alexis Sanchez came in, was on 400-500 grand a week. David De Gea walks in, goes, well, I want 350 a week. And then you're lumbered with David De Gea. What Liverpool are potentially going to do with Mo Salah, I kind of agree with. Now, I'd like to see them lumbered with him and see his form completely drop off a cliff. I'd laugh at that. But if I was running that club, I would look at some of the recruitment that they've been able to do, and I'd say, we've had the best years out of Mo Salah. Offer him a sensible contract. Maybe don't double his wage. Offer him a sensible contract, maybe with a step down in it, see if he'll accept it, which he probably won't. And see if he wants to stay at the club. If he doesn't, we'll find somebody else. I'm doing a whole video on the mismanagement of wages at Manchester United, and there's so much money wasted. And recruitment relies on having space in your wages. The fact that there's players already saying, like, if he signs, everyone's going to just start hammering down the door for a pay rise is correct. Bruno Fernandes has just gone in, signed a deal worth around about 260 grand a week, half of what Paul Pogba is getting. Now, if you look at what value for money we've got out of Paul Pogba and what we've got out of Bruno the last 2 years, is incomparable. And they basically play the same sort of position. Pogba's been fed a little bit deeper back, but they're more or less responsible for the creativity in the team. This Manchester United side is toxic, and I don't agree with Jose saying that Pogba was a virus, but I would be glad for Manchester United to move beyond the Paul Pogba era. I don't think he's been given a fair crack of the whip in terms of how he's been treated by both our fan base, opposition fan bases. But I think he's had a good run of it, and I don't like the way he's reciprocated what he's had with the circus that has surrounded him. The constant speculation. I'm absolutely sick of it. In the last 3 seasons, Paul Pogba has played 18 league games, 26 league games, and 16 league games. And in that time, he's got 5 goals. He's got 15 assists, but 9 of them assists come this season, with 4 of them coming in just one game. The circus that surrounds him and Mino Raiola is draining. And United fans are just absolutely sick of it. It also tells me if he signs at Manchester United, there's no options, because he has pimped his ass out to the whole of Europe. Real Madrid have had a taste. Barcelona have had a taste. Juventus and PSG have all had a taste. And if none of them are willing to take him on, you got to ask why none of them are willing to take him on. When you look at Paul Pogba's form the last 3 seasons, if he was a free transfer that was available, I wouldn't be saying sign him. And I don't think any of you lot would be saying to sign him. Yes, he's got the occasional 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 game in him, but more often than not, it's a 5 out of 10. And with Erik ten Hag coming in, demanding a high-intensity team style of play, Paul Pogba doesn't fit that bill. Manchester United need a pragmatic, quality midfield, something akin to Neves, Tielemans and Bruno. People was questioning whether Pogba and Bruno could play together. I'm sure they can play together. We've seen examples of when they can play together. But week in, week out, it wasn't working. United need to go in a different direction. You wouldn't sign him if he was an available player based on the form of him for the last 3 years. You wouldn't sign him based on his injury record alone the last 3 years. The balance of the team demands that he goes. The Sanchez factor demands that he goes. His inconsistency demands that he goes. The circus surrounding him and that prick Mino Raiola demands that he goes. Erik ten Hag needs a clean or a cleanish slate. There's so much work to do. There's so much to turn around in this oil tanker of a club. Empty some of the ballast, like Paul Pogba. Let him go. It's a stupid decision to offer him that contract at this stage of the season. Offered it him 6 months ago. He's already said the season's done. He might as well have just said, I'm off. I hope this is just paper talk. I really, really can't stomach seeing Paul Pogba stick around, because that's £500,000 worth of wages. That's 2 top draw players that Manchester United will miss out on because we don't have the budget. And for all of those thinking, well, we can still sign Tielemans or Neves or someone like that. We won't. Because we're wasting money. Phil Jones on 125 grand a week. Matic on 100 grand a week. Cavani's on 200 grand a week. Ronaldo's probably on £500,000 a week. You need to replace all of these players. You don't have the budget to replace all of those with quality if you're giving him £500,000 a week. Because if he's worth £500,000 a week, how's Bruno worth half that much when he plays half as much? It's absolutely ridiculous. He needs to go. And Manchester United need to move on from the Paul Pogba experiment. Fergie was right the first time around. It was a power play from Woodward to try and get one over Fergie to bring him back. It hasn't worked. He's presided over some of the worst Manchester United teams. And I don't care for all the people like, well, it's not his fault he's had to play with Scott McTominay. That was never an excuse used for Brian Robson. Brian Robson rolled his sleeves up and went to work. That should be the standard that we expect from Manchester United record signings, because that's what Brian Robson was at the time. Not good enough. If you want to give Ten Hag the best possible start, you let Paul Pogba walk out that door and you allow Erik ten Hag to bring in midfielders that are going to do what he needs them to do. Because I'll tell you this, if you give Paul Pogba £500,000 a week, you are not letting him sit on the bench, which means you've just started picking Erik ten Hag's team for him. And that's a shit start. That is the wrong start to get off on. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.